What's up, guys? I'm going to show you the next part. So after you do flats, we're going to do shading. So if you look over here, I got everything all flat out. Um, some of it's not flat out. Those are just like particle effects that I want to shine, and I don't really want to shade it, so I just left it empty. But you just want to make sure your characters are all flat, and then I have a background, and that's going to help make the lines a little bit more solid. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to shift click the flat colors and then the back colors. You're going to duplicate it and then you're going to merge it. And this is going to be like your multiply shading layer. And then you're going to click this right here. This is a layer lock. And we're just going to do like a mid-tone purple. I'm going to press B for brush, expand it, and you're going to pretty much color all of it. And this is just the shadow layer essentially, just like that. And then when I'm doing shadows, I like to know how they look in the environment. So I already have a pre-registered background, which is this guy right over here. So I'm just gonna drag him up and kind of scale him. And that's a good composition. And then I have this the box, so all I do is press Alt under the background, and then I'll just keep them in this little area. I raster size him. I'm gonna delete the rest of the box, and I'm going to filter, blur, Gaussian, and this is gonna do a little blur because it's just the background. We don't need to do too much information. Alright, so now that we got the background, we're gonna focus. We know we want a dark shading, so like purple. So you're gonna go to multiply. There you go. And let's see. I'm gonna experiment with this. So image adjustment, hue and saturation, and I'm just gonna look whether I want to have it warmer or cooler. Because it's like a nighttime scene, I think I'm gonna turn it a little bit cooler, and then I'm gonna bring this a little bit there. Alright, so this is shading, and we're gonna make two other layers. They're just gonna be, one's gonna be the texture, and then one's gonna be the light. We'll do shading first. You're gonna click this button. This is gonna make a mask. You press B. Everything that is black is going to be the, what do you call it, masked out, and everything that's white's gonna everything that's black's gonna show, and everything that's white's gonna block out. And you're just gonna take a sharp render, and I like to do, for the first pass, I like to do it very hard so I at least know what my shadows is, and then just want to block out everything roughly because we're just going to blur it out. But this is going to help at least give us an idea of how we want everything lit. Just like that. Give it the little apple dude. Perfect. And then I'm going to give him just a slight rim light. Awesome. So that looks good almost by itself, but we're just going to do a couple more things. So I'm going to go to like a smudge brush down here, and all my work, I'm just going to smudge it out. And this will just help make everything a tiny bit more smooth, give it some texture. And then I'm going to do exactly what I did last time. This time I'm going to be a little bit more careful with my coloring, and I'm going to do some hard shapes, hard lighting. Perfect. Because and usually when I color my comic or shade my comic, I really focus on rim lighting because that's how if all you do is rim lights, you can make your character stand out from the background, and that's kind of what's important. just want to smoothen. I like to make their eyes a little bit wider and then just sharpen out everything. Just like that. I'm starting to like how this is. Alright, let me bring this room a little bit darker. Perfect. So now I have a decent shading. What I'm going to do now is a little bit of texture. I'm going to still use the same layer. I'm just going to go down. I have this halftone brush. I think it's the Kyle Screen Tone Half Brush. You can find it online for free. It's under like a concept art pack. And I'm just going to turn down my opacity and give everything just a little bit of texture. These screen tones, they make a great like transition point from your lights and your darks. And you don't need to do too much of it. Alright, let me just fix this guy right here. And alright, so I'm pretty happy how this looks. You can do just tiny bevel edges, but you don't gotta, sometimes less is more. Alright, so I got my basic shading. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna duplicate it, and this is gonna be more of like texture, so image adjustment, hue and saturation, and we're just gonna move the hue a little bit on the greener side, turn down the opacity, and if you have like a texture brush like oil paint brush, or have these triangles, and essentially you're just gonna erase all your shading hard work. Let me turn up the opacity. And this is how you kind of make things look a little bit softer. The reason why I waited to duplicate it after I finish my shading is so that I can build on top of my shading layers and make things that need to be darker, darker, and make things that need to be brighter, brighter. Let's see, let me up the opacity. Alright, so we got that. That's looking pretty good. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna duplicate it one more time. Yeah, duplicate it. And then what we're gonna do is now it's gonna be the soft light. So under blending mode, you can either do overlay or soft light. Any one of these is fine. I'm going to change the color to, I want a bright. We did cool shadows, so I'm gonna do warm highlights. And then I'm gonna turn everything orange again. Let's see, let me do more like a hard light and bring more lighter. And then for this, I'm just going to turn everything. So I got a little bit of fringes, and that's just because my layers are a little bit too dark, or they expanded a little bit outside the line work. It's not really a big deal, but you can, before you like make all these layers and duplicate everything, just make sure your line work or your fill layers don't really go outside the line work, because then I have to delete, I have to go down through everything and delete it, and it adds up after a while. So that's why it's important to get your fill layers and your flat colors almost perfect, but some of it's pretty hard to catch. Again, alright, back to the lighting. So what I like to do with my light is Control I. I'm going to select this layer right over here, the masking layer. Control I should invert it, but it's not. Oh, it's because I'm selecting something. There you go. Control I, there you go. Nice and easy. And because I didn't delete, because I deleted the masking thing and not the actual color layer, that's why my fringe showed up again. So, when it comes to making comics, layer management is very important. So, now I'm just going to click that, delete over here. There you go. Now I don't have to worry about it. Alright, so I'm going to click my masking layer, press B, make sure I'm white, and then pretty much I am going to make everything bright. Going to blend everything just a tiny bit. There we go. And I'm going to reduce some of my outlines. There you go. I'm going to clean up some of my line work, or my shading work. Usually at this stage, this is kind of where you want to focus on your rim lights. There you go. And now he pops out nice and bright. Usually, if you want to go above and beyond, what you could do is make another layer, select one of these so you're not, select your shading layer, and this will be like rim lights. This is where it should shine the brightest. Press B, got a nice outlining tool, and do like a soft yellow. And here, this is like the brightest of the brightest. It's good if you have like a bright light source. And you just do the same thing, just some nice bright rim lights. And then I might change the color. Might make it, oops. Unselect, image adjustment, saturation. And I might make him more purple or more red. Something like that. Bring a little lighter. Alright. So that's a good rim light. And then if you really want to get fancy, just turn this mode to normal, duplicate it, and then you're going to select your masking layer, and this will be like a blur. Bring it below the rim, filter, blur, Gaussian, blur them just kinda a little bit. Sometimes you want to bring it above the outline. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. Kind of depends on the situation, but I'm gonna bring it under the rim, turn down the opacity, so just a tiny bit of a blur. But that is how I do my shadings in my comics. If I really want to get in depth, sometimes on my background layer, I'll just do like an overlay so that your foreground stands out with the background. So let's say I want to make the background just a little bit more pink. I'll select that. And then you play with the blending mode. Let's see, I can image. Let me change the hue. Honestly, a lot of it's just experimentation, because you're going to have different situations for a lot of things. So as long as you play with blending modes and filters, you can make a lot of things work. Right here, I'll just do overlay and lower down the opacity, and I'm pretty happy with that. But yeah, that's how I do all my shading. The nice part about this is I'm only keeping track of 3 layers, and I don't have to I can make textures quickly, and I don't have to color pick each different shades for yellow and each different shades for red. This is just a streamlined way of shading. So to recap, you have a dark purple, put it at multiply, and then bring down the opacity. You have your texture layer. It's just the multiply layer, a little bit different. You duplicate it, and then you play around. That will give you your textures, and then you have your hard light layer, and that's where you kind of make all the shiny bits. But you just need those three layers, and you can get some pretty good shading. Alright guys, have a good one.